to touch on just that word for 2 seconds here. Uh, and I can't even take credit for getting this revelation because one of my colleagues brought it to me, and when she shared it with me, it just exploded in my mind. We've been conditioned over the years of saying download, so which means that if we're getting a download, we mean that something is dropping down into our consciousness, and if it's something empowering and we feel it's coming from God, then we feel like that's still saying God is up there instead of over there, or in other words, right here. So, and with having that piece of understanding, we have deemed the choice of words and we're putting out in the universe. We had an Einstein moment, an Einstein moment instead of a download, because that Einstein, the thing that caused Einstein to have the awareness he has is within every single one of us. It doesn't have to come from up, down, left, or right. It's within you. That's why the principle says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Einstein thought and became those principles and that wisdom that they now look at as science. We are in the process of becoming that wisdom unfolding, calling those things to be not as though they were in our lives. Last night, for instance, when we were shooting pool, one of the guys was talking about this pain, and I asked the question. I said, do you know why pain shows up in your body? He says, what do you mean? It shows up because I'm in pain. I say, no, pain has a purpose. I said, when the purpose for a thing is unknown, abuse is inevitable. Right. He said, what? I said, when the purpose for a thing is unknown, abuse is inevitable, which means that the very energy will abuse you and you will abuse the energy. Now, what's the purpose for pain? He says, dude, I never heard anything like that. The purpose for pain is to show up in a person's life is to show you where you're out of alignment on a spiritual principle. The moment you become aware of why that pain is resonating and you deal with that emotional dysresonance, wherever it's located in your body, the pain has served its purpose and then it leaves. You could put water on it. You could take an aspirin, which I don't subscribe to. This is one of the reasons why when my great grandmother would say, come here, boy, when we would fall, we knew that all she had to do was just touch us and the pain was going to go away. But it's the love that she had for us as kids transcended our nonsense. Whatever the case may be, it's the love for self that will awaken you to this is where the misalignment is. So whether you take this or that or whatever, it's going to satisfy the desire or the need for pain to show up, and then it'll put you back in alignment. And that's a subject for a discussion for another day, because we can go on and on about that.
Mm-hmm. But I remember you always used to say one of the things really I think brought it home for me, that you connected the dots for me when we was working together, when I was teaching you some things, and when you said that, always used to say that to heal the body, you got to heal the mental, spiritual, physical, all of them, in order to get true healing, and that kind of resonated with me. Could you speak on that a little bit?
Well, it's just like the lecture I used to do. Feelings buried alive never die. Why? Because when buried, they manifest into physical disease, which basically means when certain feelings come up and we don't deal with them from our highest authoritative divine self, then those feelings at some point is going to manifest into some form of a dysresonance, which is recorded in our culture as a dis-ease. And that dis-ease will begin to suck the very life force out of you until you have no existence anymore. Or they want to cut a leg off, or they want to chop this off, or they want to cut a part of your colon out, or they want to cut one of your eyes out, or they want to cut this out or dope this up. And it's only because there's some emotions that we have yet to harmonize. And a lot of times our ego is standing in the way of us not releasing that energetic charge. For instance, all this problems with knee pain. Oh, I need a knee replacement. Oh, I need uh, some adjustments with my knees. All the ligaments are torn. All of that energy around dis-ease of the knee is we are, how can I say this in a very simplified way? We are choosing consciously to be not flexible with a certain thing that's been persistent in our life. We've become rigid. It's either our way or the highway, and we're not opening the door for the law of allowance to come in, because we're dictating to the law of allowance by saying no, it's this way. And after we continuously walk in a particular way without having the openness and allowing the law of allowance to come in and show us a different perspective or move in a different way, then we become inflamed. And when that inflammation sits there, it begins to wear down your tendons and your cartilages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then now you have to go see Dr. Frankenstein. Why? Because I chose to do it, like Frank Sinatra say, my way, instead of the way that Spirit is trying to show you, which is a more excellent way, which is a way about being flexible, which is a way about not being rigid in my thinking and in my doing. And then depending on what side of the body that shows up, it's either a masculine energy behind it or it's a feminine energy behind it. It's the energy that, oh, my wife is trying to get me to do this, but I'm so headstrong and I'm doing it this way. Or my husband is trying to get me to go this direction, but I'm firm and I put my feet in the sand, and that's what it is. So therefore, in that rigidity, it creates an inflammatory condition at a cellular level, and that cellular level begins to breed over the years. And then don't add a cup of coffee to it, because that's going to just really add to the inflammation, or some sugar or honey or any of those foods that we eat that produce acid. They just get in the joints and just inflame the joints. And I can't get through one day in one conversation, with several conversations, people were telling me that they have moving arthritis. And I had to just pump the brakes on that one. I say, what? They say moving arthritis. My doctor said I have moving arthritis. I said, whoa. It moves. It moves up and down my back or my leg. Wait, arthritis, the definition is inflammation of a joint. How is it moving? That's the terminology. And we know what it is. It's just acid moving through the body.
But John, but check this out. You see, I'm thinking of what you're saying, and I'm trying to relate it to some of the aging practices. Then, all this new tech and new information coming up on, dealing with energy and energy being stagnated in the body, because they deal with acupuncture. They deal with those meridians in the body, and and basically being stagnated, and causes the organs to inflame or cause whatever disease in that particular joint. And then I'm trying to connect it to, and maybe you can help me connect these dots. When we meditate and we do visualization and stuff like that, and how we try to concentrate and put our consciousness in a certain part of our body we may be meditating with it, and try to stimulate the pineal gland. We might be meditating on a different to deal with that pain that you talk about, putting our consciousness in this part of the body. So I'm trying to connect this energy flow, consciousness, and direction with pain, and then how it's attached to the unseen world, because it's the unseen who rules the scene, and dealing with this emotional thought process. How we tie all that together?
Well, what do you mean the unseen world dictates
spiritual world? The spiritual consciousness world,
Lynn, you learned this when you used to go and sit on the third row at Reverend Otis Moss Church. He said, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's the principle, that's the ancient wisdom unfolded. That's what the physicists and the epigenetics are talking about right now, the Joe Dispenzas and all those guys. As a man thinketh, and what do you mean think with your heart? When you appropriately feel into the feeling that's coming from your heart and you honor it, good, bad, ugly, whatever judgment you put on it, you honor it and you sit with it. Then that process opens up the gateway, or in this particular conversation, the meridians you're talking about, and it allows that divine energy of source, God, love, chi, prana, or as my grandmother would say, the Holy Ghost will move through your meridians, and in some cases it will move like fire. I mean, we used to sing this song, it's just like fire shut up in my bones. That's the Holy Spirit. It's the Japanese call it prana, or the Hindus call it prana, the Chinese call it chi. It's all the same energy. What is it? It is the love principle that we all have access to. Wherever there's pain in the body, there's a lack of love. Period. Love conquers all things. Love doesn't matter where it shows up. It will show up wherever. Love will come up and cause a division between families. Love will come up and say, wait, I don't care what your culture says. You and this person, I'm dancing with you. Love will come up and say, wait, I know that I spend all my time with my son, but my son's friend shows me more respect, harmony, and he's in alignment with what I'm teaching. Love will show up and say, okay, this is where you plant that seed. This is where you plant. If you follow the pathway of love, you transform. Anything less than love, you're setting yourself up to be on a gerbil wheel of mental gymnastics and frustration. And that frustration creates inflammation. And that inflammation creates pain. And that pain creates disconnection. And the pain at so many levels will cause you to think that you're separated from God, because there's nowhere in the world you need to be in that space. So what we do, we take narcotics. We take a drug from the pharmacological foundation or school of thought, which when you look up the word pharmakia, which is the Greek prefix for pharmacology, the definition is to practice witchcraft or sorcery. So once we get so disconnected by the pain that we did not understand how to overcome, and we chose to stay on these paths, we then now go into the realm of practicing sorcery and witchcraft by taking a medication to turn off the receptors to say that this problem that I'm having is not here, while the problem is continuously chewing and eating away at us.
Dr. Butler,
we decelerate. Yes.
I just want to jump in real quick and rewind back to when you talked about the role that sugar plays and how it affects inflammation and the itises and everything. And then the statement that you made about love. If you love yourself enough to leave the sugar alone, you might be able to push away from the pain that's expressing in your body because you're consuming sugar.
Now, what level of consciousness do you want me to respond to that to?
I just want you to take it where it can go. Take it where it can go.
Well, I'm gonna address it right where you are. Love will cause you to step away from sugar, because you know sugar is pure inflammation, right? Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one level of consciousness. I'm almost afraid to even talk about this next level, because people be trying to jump there and they know they're really not there. But if you decided to walk with love long enough till you became love, you can eat a 5-pound bag of sugar and it won't affect your body in no form or fashion. I believe the principle say you can pick up a snake and the snake won't even bite you. I believe the principle also talks about when you become one with love, you can get stung by a scorpion and not even be poisoned. I believe the principle also talks about at that next level of consciousness, yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow and death and pandemics and COVID and vaccinations, I will fear no evil. I will not open the door to feel because we're in love and one, and in that love frequency, none of this stuff exists anyway.
Yes.
Now, that's talking about another level of consciousness.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you speak in those terms. I saw a video the other day of these Africans, and they're like the original Africans. They're the ones that go far back, far back, far back, and they would take.
Wait, I thought man was the original African when you got that dashiki.
Yeah. Well, this is what was so fascinating about it. They were actually in trance. They're dancing. They do these ritual dances, and they go into trance. They're able to stick their head into a fire and not get burned. But the fact that they're going into trance means that they're able to do that additional level of consciousness that you talked about, a pound of sugar and not be affected. That's a whole nother level. But we look at folks like them and we think that they're so primitive when in fact and in reality, they're far ahead of where everybody else is. And they ain't using cell phones and they ain't using laptops or anything like that. They're using their own faculties.
You know, I met a woman the other day, and she sat across the table, and she says, "I'm going to talk to you, but I'm not going to open my mouth." And so it was about 4 or 5 of us there, and she literally started communicating with me through what we call telepathy. And you just made me think of that because and when you mentioned cell phones, because cell phones is just an outward manifestation of our ability to communicate with each other mentally. Every single thing we have in existence in the physical form, you can trace it directly back to a particular aspect of our organs, glands, tissues, or systems within our body. There's no system outside of us that didn't originate from a system that God has designed us with. So the cell phone and the computer, those are just manifestations, expressions of what we're capable of doing if we will choose to be still and know that we and God are one. And no thing separates us from that consciousness or that wisdom. And the moment we begin to know we're one with everything, we're not governed by anything.
You said a mouthful.
John, before we go on the break, I know you wanted to speak on one piece that they were working with here in Cleveland that after the break we can talk about that before they get away.
All right, because that just ties right into all this inflammatory conversation we're having.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
But it's, again, I think, would you agree with what, before we go into this break, what Tesla said, about understanding energy, light, and frequency is the beginning stages of real understanding about Earth and the Creator?
Tesla said that the future medicine will be the study of frequency. And frequency can be measured. And frequency is energy in motion. Energy in motion can be directly or the direct manifestation of our emotions, our energy in motion that creates a frequency, and the repetitiveness of operating from certain messages to a physical reality, first in our body and then in our environment.
That's another mouthful, brother. You just dropping the gems on us left and right here. I hope folks are listening. If you are listening, we're on AM 1490 WERE. We're also live on Facebook and YouTube, and we're going to be branching out and expanding our universe right here from the studios of Radio 1 here in Cleveland, Ohio. Again, you're listening to 360 Info Network with your hosts, Hamtonio, and yours truly, Vince Robinson. We are speaking with Dr. Jon Butler, and he's out there in the wilderness, in the storms, I think somewhere out near California, I believe. I don't know. Maybe he'll tell us when we come back. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor.
All right, man.
Don't hate. I feel that frequency when it comes to this throat chakra. Don't hate.
You get a chance to check any Billy Carson stuff out? You familiar with Billy Carson?
Oh yeah, well, that's been yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just wondered. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I don't know if I go with, just with everybody. You don't go with everything. You say some good stuff, but
10
but
seconds. 10 seconds.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Welcome back. 360 Info Network with Antonio and yours truly, Vince Robinson. We got Dr. Jon Butler on the line, and we're talking about some heavy stuff this morning, y'all. I hope y'all plugged in and tuned in. Next level, if you do it right, you can be like the brothers in Africa. You could be dancing and sticking your head in the fire and not getting burned if you are so inclined. But if not, maybe you could just not take in so much sugar and maybe not have so much inflammation in your body and be plagued by the itises here and there, just because.
And just concentrate on love, concentrate on love and higher frequency conscious and meditate, what you can.
Can I touch on the last piece you said about picking your head on fire? Because I really have to make this practical. I mean, that's totally impractical for most people that's listening to
Right.
It's actually impractical for me because I'm not doing it. However, I will. That translate statement to operate in. Is it?
You move.
What about now?
Go ahead.
You got that T-Mobile. That's what
it is. Now?
Yeah.
I think so.
You on Sprint?
Okay. So we're talking about a level of consciousness, right? So instead of thinking about or even entertaining sticking your head in a bowl of fire, whatever the case may be, picking up scorpions and any of that, walking on fire. What about taking that moving to the level of consciousness that says, you know what? I have been bombarded with years of disappointment. And those years of disappointment that have not been dealt with from my highest self has now caused the energy in my kidneys to dissipate. And now the dissipation of that life force energy that Star Wars always told you, may the force be with you, that force has started to dissipate from my kidneys. And now I just joined the ranks and the numbers of the 190 some plus thousand people that go on dialysis a year. I just got into that arena because I chose not, or I didn't know that I could raise my frequencies enough to look at the various things that disappointed me and look at it and sit with it long enough to the disappointment now shifts into a stepping stone of empowerment. But instead of me allowing it to turn into a stepping stone of empowerment, I gave it permission to be disappointed or disappointment, and it disempowered me to the level in which now my kidneys are malfunctioning. So if we begin to look at life and these experiences that we create as a stepping stone to raise our consciousness versus being a victim of the energy that we've been given power to transcend, then you would see these disparities and these numbers and these disparities begin to trickle down, because now I realize that when I'm faced with disappointment, I'm supposed to sit with it and look at it from a different perspective and allow it to become a stepping stone of empowerment. When I look at anger and I sit in the face in the presence of anger, I now begin to ask myself, why am I allowing this energy to dominate my liver? okay, which does 2,500 functions a day. And then when you ask the question, why am I allowing this anger to manifest? Okay, then you go, okay, well, why am I angry at this person? Oh, because this person is doing this. Oh, this person is not doing what I feel that he or she should be doing. And because I can't have my way, I'm getting upset. And now that upsetness turns into anger over a period of time. And what that tells me about us as a people is that we are, and I'm saying this in a very empowering way, we are in the process of becoming emotionally slash spiritually mature. For the years past, we have been, how I want to say this, we have not been mature enough on an emotional slash spiritual level to look at life and the circumstances of life and look at them as stepping stones and building blocks. We've allowed them to create a thought process which opens a portal into various organs and glands in our body to cause us to be operate from a place of look what she did to me, look what she did to me, look what they did to me, look what the government did to me, look what my et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Instead of saying, okay, this particular scenario popped up, how can I learn from it and what is it here to teach me? When you live in the question, the answer will come. Because choose to operate. Okay, so here we go. I wanted to talk is technology as it comes to neutralizing inflammation. I know we talked about it over the years how inflammation is the number one cause of all disease. Inflammation, inflame. Where does that come from? Having inflamed thoughts. But I'm not going to deal with the emotional part of that just now. We've touched on it. But I want to talk about a product that during this pandemic came up out of nowhere, out of the consciousness of some people that decided to follow where Spirit was leading them to create something for everybody to benefit. And I'm talking about glue. Glue that holds the body together. Glue that neutralizes pain and inflammation within the body. Glue that supports the brain to have far more cognition, far more focus and clarity. Collagen is the glue for the entire body. Cells. Okay? So I'm talking about a product that has well over 80 clinical trials that says, if you ingest me as this elixir, I will begin to move with my own level of consciousness within your body and begin to turn those enzymes off that causes a breakdown in collagen around my kidneys, collagen in my joints, collagen around my muscles, collagen for my entire system. The whole body needs collagen. Collagen is the glue for the entire system. We've discovered a product out here that not only promotes the body to make collagen, but it also begins to address the inflammatory conditions where all problems emerge from anyway. So now it's neutralizing the, oh man, this rain is blowing down trees. Wow. Okay. So in the midst of neutralizing the acid, turning the switch off, well, most of us don't know that after the age of 30, we stop producing collagen. And every year thereafter, we lose we only produce 1 to 2% of collagen for each year after. So now we get the wrinkles. Most people don't know that the inflamed joints is because there's a lack of collagen around your spinal column. So, and I know we're running out of time. And again, I allowed you to take me down this one other street here, but it's all good. It's good information. And we can come back on this. with this, because I want to do my due diligence in letting the public at large know that the Creator has given us a product that works on three different levels of our body: our cognition, the inflammatory responses that we create in the body, which actually reverses the aging process. Look at dis-ease, or the low vibrational foods that we eat, or the genetically modified foods that we're eating, to cause us to gradually decrease in vitality. That decreasing in vitality is what we have become accustomed to, old age. This thing called old age, you will see disappear once we give the body what it needs. And every system in the body, and it works on a bioactive level where it causes intracellular communication. It really begins to talk to your body and say, we no longer need to hold this in this part of the body. We are literally designed to lift up your consciousness so that now you begin to love yourself at a deeper level, because it's easing this thing they call pain that we've been embracing. Pain and
Dr.
discomfort
Jon,
leaves the body. Latoya,
Latoya, what?
Cleveland.
Latoya, what's your last name?
Information, and they have some free samples for the first 5-10 callers that give them a
Okay,
call.
all
We're
right.
already set up information.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna get
I'm
back.
not there, but
We're gonna get back with you. And we got a Butler holistic practitioner. Don't forget today.
there.